I'd actually encourage you to look for those industries
Absolutely.
that have some really tough regulatory hurdles, because when you get through them, it really puts some distance between new people coming around. It's probably 2 years, lead time if people read about us and say, hey, I'm going to start that, versus some of these, companies that are more like products or features, which are pretty you can do those pretty fast. So those are some of the bigger ones.
Yeah. I really want to get back to the regulatory issue, because in Silicon Valley, for all of the virtues of startups here, and it's the last 3 months, I was telling Tom Byers, we certainly are seeing now a lot of business plans where it's YouTube meets X, Facebook meets adult entertainment, you name it, crazy stuff. But there's just no doubt in a lot of cases we ask people, well, what do you think your defensibility is? How much of a lead do you think we have? And they'll come back and they'll say, well, we think we have a 2-month lead. And I step back and I say, it is changing pretty darn fast. And so that defensibility through regulatory constraints is something that is rarely looked at here in Silicon Valley. I'm struck when I go back to Boston or in other parts of the country, we do see more startups and more entrepreneurial ventures where people are looking for discontinuities within the regulatory structure or thinking about taking that on. And maybe talk about that and how you learned from E-Loan, but then you took on a very significant task in terms of having to go state by state, on, and maybe take us through how you got comfortable with that and what that has meant from a company point of view.
Yeah, I guess a couple things there. One, I think we took a lesson out of the PayPal sort of experience, and PayPal, I think, was famously, aggressive in their regulatory strategy. I mean, on purpose, and they definitely, that's why they won against the Citicorp and some of the other and the eBay kind of a version of that. So we were very deliberate about that. We thought, look, if you get some really good attorneys, we brought on a general counsel right away. That was as important as the CTO in our case. So I actually brought him my general counsel from E-Loan, just a black belt in the area, none better. And he was a real creative legal guy. So regulators won't tell you what you can do. I mean, you can go to the SEC and say, hey, what do you think about this? Rarely are you going to get a no-action letter, especially in these new categories. But what you can hope for is they're not going to shut you down right away. And in many cases, that's good enough. So get some good attorneys. You can get their opinions. Arm yourself. You need that to then take to the first question Jim's going to ask, can you do this? And again, that's why we had to have that legal regulatory thing fixed first. I think Jim knows, everybody knows you guys are going to probably figure out the technology, right? But can you do the regulatory? That had to come first. And I think that was a key lever in getting a good valuation, getting it off the ground as a concept, attracting our team. And then I think with some of the other experience at E-Loan, we had worked a lot with consumer advocates. The consumer advocates have a big influence on the regulators. At the end of the day, if you're doing something that's good for consumers, regulators will give you a lot more leeway, definitely, than if you're trying to really push things, screw people, especially in financial services where most of the new innovative startups are run by crooks. I mean, these are really, really bad people doing bad things. So if you can introduce something like a PayPal or something that's very positive, that's going to go a long way, and you can use that to good benefit.